So in the last class, we have seen this basic application. When I was running this particular application, it was showing you one JFrame, right? So with the size, whatever you have specified, that is a 600 into 400, right? So on that particular frame, on that particular JFrame, we have added a one button, and which was so means on that button there was a text which is called as click. Okay, so I now I just wrote a saying that wherever we have written this, we are talking about this particular JFrame. That means JFrame's set size is this one. For a JFrame, you add this particular button, whatever you have created, which is having a click me. Okay, so for a JFrame, don't go with any of a layout. So just to take it as a null layout. Okay, then for a button we have state, right? So this is object of a button, and we said object of a button, that means a button should have a bounds. These are x coordinate, y coordinate, what should be a width of that particular button, and what should be the height of that button, right? So this dot set visible means till now you have a configured your JFrame. So once you make a this dot set visible, that a JFrame will be available for you. That means you can see that one. If you are not writing a this particular set visible as a true, then a JFrame will not be visible for us. Okay, so these are the things which we have done in the last class, right? So in the last class I told you that this is a one of a way how you can consume that particular JFrame, right? So one of the way was by extending your JFrame, right? So there will be a class called as a JFrame. By extending so means if your class is extending that particular JFrame, then your class also will behave like a just like a JFrame. So you are writing a this dot set size, this dot set layout, everything, right? So there is a one more way. Instead of extending this particular JFrame, you can create object of a JFrame. Then instead of writing a this, you can use the object of a JFrame. Then say if say for example here say for example I'm not using this particular JFrame. Okay, so here let me create an object of a JFrame. Say if I'm writing JFrame f is equal to new JFrame. Okay, so this I'm creating object of a JFrame. Now instead of writing a this, wherever you have a this, you can write a f, right? So instead of writing a this, you can write f dot. Okay, instead of writing a this, you can write f dot set. Okay, so instead of this keyword f dot set visible, possible you can do in this particular fashion also. What I'm saying is you have a both ways. Either you can extend that particular JFrame class, or you can create an object of a JFrame. By using that particular object, you can set whatever the properties you wanted to set, right? So let me just cross check. Java C swing demo, no errors. Yes. Hope that is not visible. Okay. So this is what the output that I got, right? So what I mean to say is either you can extend that particular JFrame class, and then using this dot you can set the properties of that particular JFrame, or you can create object of a JFrame. Then by using that particular object, you can set a few properties of whatever the frame properties you wanted to give first. Is that clear? Okay. So if these things are clear, then we have to discuss one more example which will give you a more comfort, and you can learn a more classes, more methods, and procedure exactly how exactly the things need to be used. So we will be understanding all those things in a better fashion, right? So before going to a coding part, let me show you what I wanted to develop in this particular example. So later we will see how to write a code for the same thing. Okay. So here have a example called as tabbed panel example. Okay, so already program is there, but I will tell you first. I will show you what is the output of this program. Then I will discuss what is the theoretical aspects that we have to remember in order to understand this program. Then we will try to write the program, right? So just for understanding the concept in a better fashion, I have already checked the program and it is working fine. First, I will explain you what are the things we have to discuss. Then we will see theoretical part, then the program. Okay. So let me compile this program, showing some warning. No problem with respect to warning. Okay. Hope this screen is visible. Right. So this is what we have to develop in this particular example. With respect to this particular output, you should be clear with what are the theoretical aspects that we have to remember. Okay, so let me take out a notepad and I'll tell you what are the points that we have to remember in order to understand how to develop this particular window, right? Hope these things are, I just wanted to show you what are the things we have to keep in mind in order to do this program. Right, so perfect. First, what we have to do is, whatever outer part you are seeing, this minus, maximize, cross, all these things are nothing but your JFrame, right? First, we have to add this particular JFrame, right? So for this particular JFrame, we have to specify what should be its width and height of a JFrame, everything, right? So after configuring your JFrame, what you have, this particular box, whatever you are seeing, combo box, list, tree, radio button, all these things it is showing, right? So all these things are called as tabbed panel. Okay, so the appearance, whatever the appearance you are seeing, so you are seeing a different tabs, right? Correct. So all these things are nothing but, so means this particular container is nothing but a tabbed panel, right? So what we have to do first we have to put a JFrame. On that JFrame, we have to put a tabbed panel. So I have to put a tabbed panel, right? So on these tabbed panel, what are the other things you have? The first one is you have a combo box, right? So if you want to work with the combo box, that means if you want to place a combo box, you need to use a class called as combo, right? I may not be completely clear with respect to class name, but there is a class which stands with a J, which starts with a J, and there is something called as a combo. Yeah, combo or a combo box, either of these two, right? So first I have to place a combo box. Then I have to place then I have to place something called as a list, right? So for a tree like structure, see, if I click on this particular tab, you are getting some tree like structure. So first folder is a programs. So on that particular first folder, you have a one more folder. So in that folder you have these many options, right? So here you have a something called as default mutable tree component, default mutable tree. This is the class which you have to use for this. Okay, JList, right? So this is your default mutable tree. I think this is a component of a swing followed by tree class. So I'm not sure whether a J is prefixed or not. Let us see that. Right. So then you have a something called as a radio button. So you have a two options. For that radio button to have, you have a class called as radio button, right? So all these classes, whatever I am talking, JBox, JCombo box, JList, default mutable tree, all these things are subclasses of your panel class. You have a class called as a panel class. So all these things are subclasses of this particular panel class, right? First we have to create a JFrame. Then on that particular JFrame, you have to put a tabbed panel. In that tabbed panel, you have to put all these things like a JBox, that means a combo box, list, default mutable tree, and a radio button, right? All these things. Then if a so means I said that these things are nothing but a panels itself, right? So you have to write a classes for this and tell what are the contents need to be there with respect to combo box, and what are the contents need to be there with respect to a list, and what are the components that are that should be there with respect to tree, and what are the components that should be there with respect to a radio button. Got a idea? Okay. The one more important point that we need to remember with respect to list, just now I recall that particular point. With respect to list, see, this is a list. Whatever the items you are seeing, all these things will be added as a string array, right? Whatever the items you are going to see, all those things will be added as a string array, right? So now for all these items, are you getting this particular scroller by default? That means there is some scroller view, right? So I need to have this particular scroll, right? So with respect to a list, right, I have to use scroll also, because if I have a more items, then only scroll should show. If I don't have a much items, say for example, on this particular view, how many elements it is showing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 elements it is showing. If I am placing only 4 elements, I don't want a scroll to be displayed, right? So if I am configuring, so means what I need to do is I need to have a one string array. That particular string array I need to put into a JList list. That means list of names you are putting into a list class, that is object of a list. Then you need to tell that this list should be displayed in a scroll, right? That list should be displayed in a scroll. Now scroll will take care. If you have a less number of elements, it won't display any scroller for you. If it has got a more number of elements, then only scroller will be displayed for you. If you are clear with overall idea, let us start programming. You have to remember what should be our expected output, in which fashion we need to have our output to in the proper fashion. So based on that, we can write a code. Okay. So let me remove all these statements and keep it as a simple for the sake of understanding. Later I can copy paste these statements I have already. One second. It may look lengthy, but things are simple. We can easily understand. Right. So anything is missed. This is my tabbed panel examples. Okay, so constructor I have from a main method, I'm calling this particular constructor. Okay, no problems. Right. So now what is our first work to be done? We need to have something called as a JFrame first, right? So after having a JFrame, we can put some controls onto that particular JFrame, right? So let me see. I'm not going to write all the instructions. I'll be copy pasting the instructions, directly telling you, but I'll tell you why I have written that particular instruction, right? So in a constructor, I need to have a frame. Okay, so let me have a frame first. This is the constructor. Yes, added a frame by writing some, just by creating the object of that particular JFrame class. Right. Now, what I said, once I have a JFrame, what are the other thing I need to have? I need to have a panel also, right? So tabbed panel I need to have, right? So let me create object of that particular tabbed panel. Tabbed panel is available now. On this tabbed panel, what are the elements you have seen? What are the elements you wanted to have on a tabbed panel? You wanted to have a panel called as a combo box. Then you wanted to have a panel with respect to a list, radio button, all those things, right? Okay, so let us set some bounds for the tabbed panel, right? So these are the values with respect to tabbed panel, right? So this is the size and all whatever I require with respect to tabbed panel. Right now, on this tabbed panel, I need to have combo box. Okay, let me show you output first for the combo box, then we will discuss how to do with respect to other values, that means other panel elements, right? So here, when I say new combo panel, that means I need to have a class with respect to this particular combo panel. Class combo panel, right? So what we have said, it has to extend, what it has to extend? It has to extend what is called as JPanel, right? So when you are creating a new object of a combo panel, obviously there should be a constructor over here, so that particular constructor should be under execution, right? So what are the things we have seen with respect to combo panel? Combo panel means it's like a combo box, right? So when it is a combo box, we need to have an object of that particular combo box first, then we can add elements onto that particular object, right? So what I mean to say is, you need to have combo box, J combo box, let me say it as a CB is equal to new J combo box, right? Created object of a combo box now. Okay, so on this object I need to have elements, few elements, right? So let me add those elements. CB dot add item, right? So this is the method which is used to add elements onto that particular combo box, right? So CB dot add item, finish. Let me have one more element, right? So these are the elements that I wanted to add with respect to combo panel, right? So now all these things, that means this you are writing with respect to a constructor part, right? So whatever the things you have added, right, so those things need to be added to the panel now. Okay, so whatever object you have created, that is object is nothing but a CB. I just wanted to add this particular object CB to my panel, which is called as combo panel. I said that CB should have this particular item, CB should have this particular item, combo box should be having this particular item, right? Created object now, right? So later I am just adding that particular object to the combo box panel, right? This panel. Initially I told you everything whatever you are going to see in a tabbed, each part is nothing but a separate panel, right? So combo box is nothing but, combo box is now CB is having these many elements. All these elements need to be added to a combo box panel. So I am writing a add of CB in the last. Right? So now how the things will work? So it will start from a main method. In a main method, you are saying a tabbed panel examples. So it will be going to a constructor of this particular tabbed panel example. First, you are creating a JFrame, and then on a JFrame, you are creating some tabbed panel, and you have given a dimension for that particular tabbed panel as this one, these dimensions. Then you have added one element, that means you are saying for a TP, that means a tabbed pan. I'm going to add an element called as a combo box, right? So new combo panel. When it encounters a new combo panel, it will be calling a constructor of that particular combo panel, adding all these elements to the object first, then adding that complete object to the panel. I am trying to make as simple as possible, because if I explain all the panels at one stretch, it might be a confusing, so taking the individual part separately. Understood till this point? Okay. Are we missing any statements? See, for a frame, you have just created object of a frame. You didn't specify what should be its width, right? And we didn't specify what should be the layout that we are using. In last time we have given it as a null layout, right? So with respect to frame, we need to add a few statements. Let me just copy paste those statements. I already told you we need to just specify what should be its width, and we need to just specify means what a layout we are using with respect to frame. Okay. Uh, One second. Set size, set layout, visible. I'm making it as a true, right? So these parameters I wanted to add. For what? For the frame. Okay. Frame has been set with a size of a 500 into 600, and the layout I'm going to use it as a null layout, and the visibility I make it as a true, right? Okay, so we have created a TP, right? Whether we have added this particular TP, that means a tabbed panel to the frame, whether we have added a tabbed panel to the frame. Yes, we have created a tabbed panel. We have said that tabbed panel should have a combo box now, right? Whether we have added this particular tabbed panel to the frame, not added. So you need to call a method called to the frame you add. What you need to add? You need to add tabbed panel, whatever we have created. Are we done with the things? Shall we check a program now? Question in the chat box. Sir, tabbed panel examples in a line 5, a method? No, that is not a method. That is a constructor. Constructor will have a same name as a class name. So this constructor will be executed when you are creating object of that class, right? Your program will start executing from a main method, right? So in a main method, you wrote only this statement, new tabbed panel examples. When a new tabbed panel examples statement encounters, it will be executing these instructions. That is a constructor of your tabbed panel, right? So let us just cross check what are the things that have been created. Later we can discuss further on this example. It is just showing a warnings, no errors. Let me run it. Hope that is not visible. So this is what we have got. Okay, so it is showing a combo box. Whatever the elements you have placed, those elements it is showing now. Clear with the things? Because once you are clear with the one particular panel, the rest of the things are just simple. That means we just need to understand what are methods we need to use for each element. If you are clear with those methods, nothing is a complex with respect to this example, right? So go through the example carefully, whatever the things we have done until now. If you have any questions, please post those questions. If you don't have a question, we will proceed further with adding a few more panels for this. Sir, why don't we write the instructions in a main method rather than writing them in a constructors? Means, however, we can create an object. See, so means no restrictions like we need to write in a main method or we need to write in a separate class. We just wanted to keep a main method clean. That is the only reason why we have shifted into some other class or a constructor. See, in this example, you are working with only one tabbed panel. Say, for example, when you are developing application, in same of JFrame, you might be required to put so many different controls, right? Application will not be having just a pan, just a tabbed pan itself, right? You might be having another element. In that case, if you are writing everything in a main, then the things will get confused, right? So what we have done is we have just specified in a main method. We are just telling yes, I need to have a one tabbed pan. After this, if you want to have anything, so there also you can write, because while creating this object, it will go to that particular constructor. While creating a next statement, next object, it will go to that particular constructor. So things will be in a modularized fashion. You can easily understand where might be the problem, or we can easily modify the things whenever it is required. Good question. Any other questions? And so why aren't we creating a class for a JTabbed pan and extending it to JPanel? We created a class for a combo panel. No. Yeah, for a tabbed pan also we have created this class, public class tabbed panel examples. You mean to ask like why we have written a j tabbed pan tp is equal to new j tabbed pan. Instead of this we can write a extends, right? Can be written, no problem. In the previous example only I told you, this means either you can go with a object or you can extend. If you are extending this particular tabbed pan, keep in mind that your class is nothing but your tabbed pan class. So wherever you are using a TP, so instead of using a TP, you can use a this dot set bounds, this dot add, right? So you can write f dot add of this can be written. Yeah, that was a means that was the first point to be addressed. So I gave you a previous example explanation first, then I took this particular fashion. It is up to you. You can make your class extend a JTablet pan like how it is extending the JPan can be done. No problem. Okay. Any other questions? You have to get so many questions because this is the first time you are using some GUI components, right? Okay. So now we are successfully added this particular combo box. Let me copy paste. I already told you. Let me just copy paste few instructions. Let us add what we will add. We will add list first. Okay, right. So if I want to add a list here, yes, tp dot add, right? So whatever you have written in a double quote that will be given in that particular pan description. So new list you have set. Okay, so when you are saying a new list, obviously there should be a class with respect to list, right? So after this let me create a class which is called as list, right? So what it should extend, it should extend what is called as jpan, right? So I told you all these things are nothing but subclasses for that particular jpanel. So you need to have a constructor for that particular list, created a constructor of that list, right? So I told you whenever you are working with a list you need to remember that it is a group of string values, right? So later it has to be added to a scroll, right? So let me just add those statements including a scroll in the constructor part. Okay, so taken a one string which is called as a cities, created object of a JList, right? So whatever the string you have created that has been passed as an argument, now this will be a list, right? So what I told you, once you have a list, that a list to be given to a scroll, right? So created object of a scroll pan, whatever the list we have created that has been given. Okay, so for that particular scroll there is a some size given, and this dimension is some 120 into 90 width and a height. Okay, so adding everything to the panel, right? Adding whatever scroll you have created to the panel, right? So how many elements we have now? 4 elements. So let us just cross check whether it is enough or is it displaying a scroll or not. So that is first question to be answered, right? So compiled, no errors, just a warnings. Yes. So now I have got a combo box followed by list. So list is having a 1 2 3 4. So as you have only 4 elements, scroll is not required, so it is not displaying a scroll for us, right? Say for example if you have more than these elements, right? uh, Here, right? So let me, what I'll do, I'll just copy these values, copy, comma, paste, right? So I didn't do anything, just the same values I have just copy pasted, right? Now let me just compile and cross check. No issues. Yes, showing me output combo box is fine with elements. See list, it is giving you a scroll wheel. Clear with the things, whenever you are going with a list, you need to remember that first you need to create a string, right? So while creating object of a list, pass that particular string. Now list will be having a set of values, right? Then while creating a scroll, you just pass that particular list whatever you have created as an argument, then set some width property for this particular scroll, right? So what should be a width and what should be height, you just specify those. Is this clear? Let me keep both things parallel so can relate. If you are clear with these things, then we will proceed further. Okay, so now we will do one thing. Radio button is simple. We will first put that particular tree part. Okay, so then we will see how to work with the radio button. Right, so quickly let me copy paste a few more instructions. Sir, explain once line number 39. Line number 39 is you are setting, see, SCR is nothing but a scroll view, whatever you are seeing in that particular view. Okay, so for that scroll, you are setting preferred size is, right? So 120 into 90. See, this one is a system built-in. You are not writing any class for this one. I'm just saying that I need to have a one dimension for that particular scroll view, whatever I am creating. Its width should be 120 and the height should be some 90. These again with respect to pixels one, right? So now let us add what is called as component tree, right? So tp.add tree panel. So first that entry should be there with respect to panel. Added that particular panel. You have a object of a tree panel. So I'll just copy this one because I need to create a class with respect to same name. So class that particular tree panel extends what is called as jpanel, right? So within this I need to have a constructor of same tree panel. So kept a constructor, right? So within this constructor, what was the structure? First there will be a one folder. So in that folder, one more folder will be there. In that one more folder, you will be having the elements, right? So I will just copy those things, right? So these are the things that should be there with respect to constructor of a tree panel, right? So default mutable tree node top. This means this one is a parent folder, right? You have a something called as programs. This is a parent folder. Under that means you are just creating object. Later you are going to tell like under which what need to be there, right? So one you have a top object which is having a name called as programs, and another object you have is called as A, which is having a BTech programs. Now you are saying that top dot add of A. That means now under programs you will be having something called as BTech program, right? So first object you are using, so this will be a under a top. That means that will be in a priority position. Means top value, first value. Okay. Under this particular top, you are telling to add this particular A. Okay. So top dot add of A. Right. So under this particular A, what are the other things that you need to have? You need to have all these values. In this IoT is not there, right? How come? You are taking a class of IoT. How can you miss that? Copy, paste. Let me say this one as a A6. Okay. So, yes. Okay. IoT. Okay. So where these things need to be added, for all this parent will be your BTech programs. So A dot add of which object? I need to add object of A6, right? So all these things are individual statements. A dot add of A1, okay. A dot add of A2, right? A dot add of A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, right? So all these things, right? So all these things means now you have created one structure now, right? So all these things right? So top object, whichever is the top object, right? So that I am adding as a object of a J tree, right? Everything you just add to a panel. Okay, so J tree means for a tree who is a parent. Okay, so parent is my top object. So in that parent I have configured everything, which should be a next child, which should be a later child, and all everything has been configured. So just specifying for a J tree who is a parent tree need to be used, and I'm just adding everything whatever I have created with respect to that particular panel, right? So J panel. Okay, shall we cross check? Any questions? We just need to remember what methods or which classes we are using, right? So that is important. Sir, why default mutable tree node method? Uh, what's the function of this? This particular default mutable tree node will add an element to a tree. Generally, for with respect to combo box, you had a method called as a add item. Okay, so with respect to tree structure, you don't have a method like a add parent, add child, add left child, right child. You don't have all those things. Every element will be considered as a separate node itself, tree node, right? So that is the reason why you are creating separate objects for a separate elements in the tree. If you observe the combo box, you had a some method which is called as a add item, right? So we said that for a combo box you have an item called as a Java, right? So with respect to trees, you don't have a such kind of a method where in which you can be saying like add a AI, add a CTIS, add a MACT. You don't have a method called as a add item because each element of that tree will be considered as an object. Using a comma instead of a semicolon, see, that is not possible because comma is not proper syntax. If you are specifying the array, in an array you can say like these are the collection of elements, right? When you are writing a statement, you have to end a statement. You need to say this is a one statement, this is another statement, that is another statement. So we have wrote it as a semicolon, right? So let us just cross check what are the things we have done. Is it means replying the same thing or not? Sir, tree panel extends J panel is just like a parent class to a child. Yes, J panel is a parent for all the panels, right? So in this example, we have used a combo panel, list panel, a tree panel, right? So whatever the different panels you have, radio panel again you will be having. So for all those things, your J panel is a parent. Okay. So you stop a process, compiles, find no errors, run the program. List is done, tree. So tree programs, detect programs. If I extend all those elements, whatever objects I have created, those objects it is returned. Clear with the things, right? So in a similar lines, you have a statement with respect to a radio button. So means we don't have enough time to discuss that particular radio button part, and it is a simple only. Once you understood all these things, no much problem with respect to that. First, there should be entry with respect to this particular tabbed panel with respect to radio button. Then you should have a class, add items to that particular panel, right? So that's it. I'll be sharing a recording of this class, and I'll be sharing a code of this one also. This is your lab program 12. This is your lab experiment 12. I'll be sharing those things. Practice a program first. Once you are clear, then prepare a report of the same and submit in the Google Classroom. So that's it from my side.